The war in Iraq is actually a continuation of what has been U.S. foreign policy since the revolution, which has been an imperial foreign policy bent at taking over other countries and dominating their resources and their people for the ends of American capitalists. This country has always been run by the elite, and the working class movements and other social movements in the history of this country have had a tremendous impact on how things happen here, for sure. But the elite is still firmly in power and has been in power since the revolution, it's an expansive sort of government. It's been that way under Whigs, Tories, Democrats, and Republicans. And the degree to which it's been that way has varied slightly over time. And during the Bush years, it's been much worse than usual. But not an exception. It's been just more of the same, but worse. Naomi Klein, again, not to become Naomi Klein's spokesperson or something, but Naomi Klein had a brilliant section in her book that Paul mentioned about the sort of the original sinlessness of America, and this is an insane, fantastical sort of idea that's only able to be maintained in the minds of many Americans because we don't live in a democracy and we don't live in a country where we have real freedom of speech. We live in a country where it's $1, one vote. Whoever has the most money gets elected. In national elections, certainly, of course, that can be challenged in local elections, but it's never successfully been challenged in national elections. We also live in a country where the 99% of the media is still controlled by a tiny number of energy companies. And, you know, it's been wonderful with the flourishing of the internet and all that, and community radio and Pacifica and, you know, cable access TV and so much else, which has had a real impact for sure. But still, the CNN, Fox, NBC, you know, et cetera, these are powerful entities. They have a huge impact on society, as does our educational system, which is using textbooks that are written by you know, corporate-sponsored you know, scum and giving us just horrendous disinformation. So that's the situation that we're living in. So of course people, you know, we live in this sort of situation where we have like collective amnesia, and John Ross wrote a wonderful poem about that. And so with this collective amnesia, then you know, when we get hit by Al Qaeda in New York City and D.C. and Pennsylvania in 2001, and Americans are sort of in a way naturally asking the question, why do they hate us? Who did this? What did we do to them? You know, and of course they can't answer that last part. You know, they can't answer any of it because they by and large have no idea. And so then, grasping at straws, they go and do things that they hope will inform themselves, but they have no idea where to look. And you can see based on some indications, you know, what people did, what many people did. They bought Qurans. They wanted to read about Islam, which is a nice impulse, but it has very little to do with the attacks on the Twin Towers, and actually religion has very little to do with any of the conflicts that are happening in the world. And this is part of the misinformation. You know, it's all about religion and it's about sectarian violence. That's nonsense. It's about colonialism. It's about neocolonialism. It's about resistance to these things. It's about conflicts within countries which have a class basis. The Lebanese Civil War was not a religious war. It was a class war. And if anybody studying that can see, you know, who are the elements and who are backing them. You know, that there's huge class elements within the sectarian conflicts in Iraq, which many Iraqis have been trying to solve through democratic means, but those democratic means have been done away with by the U.S. I mean, when they tried to have elections, you know, basically, you know, under, you know, free and fair, locally controlled elections, the U.S. occupation forces canceled them. If you don't know your history, if you don't know, you know, what the role of the U.S. has been, then you could think, oh well, we're just defending ourselves, you know, against these terrorists. But that's certainly not at all. It's no more the case than if some little kid in the schoolyard punches the bully, you know, then you know, you say, oh, we have to defend ourselves against that little kid in the schoolyard, and we have to build a fence around the schoolyard and get some armed security for the bully. No, you stop being a bully, and the kid is not going to hit you. with the war in Afghanistan, it's remarkable how many people in this country think that it's somehow different from the war in Iraq. It is different in that there is involvement by more people in the international community who are trying to do legitimately good things in Afghanistan. The U.S. military is not one of those people trying to do good things in Afghanistan. In fact, the U.S. military is impeding the efforts of lots of NGOs who are trying to do good things in Afghanistan. The U.S. military has no idea how to do humanitarian work of any sort. All they know how to do is bomb people, and and of course they're not led by civilian leaders that have any idea how to do humanitarian work. I mean, all they know how to do is give hundreds of billions of dollars to contractors so that they can then do nothing with the money or just kill people with it. I mean, the U.S. has made such a farce out of any effort to help people in Afghanistan or rebuild anything in Afghanistan. People in Afghanistan are outside of Kabul are actually worse off now than they were under the Taliban, which is an incredible feat to actually be worse off than under under an insane misogynist regime that, of course, we helped put into power in Pakistan, which did with our money put into power. And of course, Iraqis are worse off now than they were under Saddam, much worse off there. But Afghanistan has been a farce, and of course it never was about the Afghan people. The U.S. I mean, that's something that people have to understand. In this country, which people understand around the world, but they need to understand here. The U.S. government, led by Democrats or Republicans, has no interest in the welfare of people around the world or people in this country, except to the extent that that they can hold on to their power. I mean, they don't want to get rid of Social Security because they don't want an armed uprising in the United States. But otherwise they would. If they could make money off it, they'd do it. They'd do anything for money. These people are completely cynical. Who run this country.